reverent storytelling with emotions. They told me Bishop Rock was peaceful. That was the word they used, like it was supposed to comfort me. But peace feels different out here. When the ocean swallows every sound, when there's nothing but wind, steel, and the heartbeat of a single light turning in the dark, peace feels like a threat. They say this is the smallest island in the world with a building on it. Just me, the lighthouse, and the sea. But every time that beam cuts through the fog, I swear I see movement, something out there, waiting between rotations. The handover briefing lasted 5 minutes. The old keeper barely looked me in the eye. Before he left, he just said, "Keep the light on through every tide, and if they come, don't speak." I thought he meant smugglers, or maybe stranded sailors, until I read the logbook, the one written entirely in fountain pen, dated 1892. Every entry ended the same way. Protocol observed, life preserved. And the first page was titled, Rules for the Tide Visitors.
First week was routine. The light turned, the sea stayed rough, and I logged weather reports into a system that probably no one reads anymore. But Bishop Rock isn't silent. Not really. At night, the waves don't just crash, they echo. Like something below the surface is answering back, shaping the sound into rhythm. On the 7th night, I started hearing it. A low hum beneath the wind, perfectly timed with the rotation of the light. It wasn't machinery, it was too alive. Every time the light swept across the water, the hum deepened, as if something massive was turning with it. When I reported it, headquarters said, "That's probably resonance from the lamp motor, ignore it." But then the logbook disagreed. Page 47, 1911 entry. Do not mistake the resonance for fault. It is the signal that they are near. They again. Always they. Never explained, never named. By the 10th night, I'd memorized every one of the Victorian protocols. There were 12 in total. And the 7th one still gives me chills. When the sea hums, keep your eyes away from the window. Do not interrupt the light's rotation, and under no condition answer the knock. That line didn't make sense at first, until I heard it. 3 slow knocks. From the outside of the glass, 30 meters above the ocean. The first knock came just before dawn. 3 solid thuds against the glass, sharp enough to rattle the lantern housing. No wind, no birds, no debris, just that steady knock, knock. Knock. I froze. Every instinct said to look, but I remembered the 7th protocol. Do not answer the knock. So I stood there, listening, counting seconds. The knocks stopped. Then, through the intercom system, which hadn't worked in weeks, a faint voice came through. familiar. "Keeper, open the panel. You're due for inspection." It was the voice of my supervisor, but he was 100 miles away on the mainland. The voice continued, this time softer, closer. "You're not following rotation properly. You're out of alignment." The lamp above me flickered once, and for the briefest moment I saw a shadow through the glass, a tall human outline, but blurred, wrong, like it was inside the mist, not outside of it. The light swept past, and the shape vanished, and with it, the voice. When the sun finally rose, I checked the outer platform. No marks, no footprints, only 3 indentations on the glass, like fingers pressing from the inside out. I thought about leaving then, but the logbook had another note at the bottom of that same page. "They will call to you in familiar voices. Ignore the first call. The second will sound like your own." 2 nights after the knock, the storm rolled in, the kind that makes the whole tower breathe, steel joints groaning, waves striking like artillery. Visibility dropped to nothing. That's when I heard it. My voice, coming through the emergency broadcast channel. "This is Keeper 1. If anyone's hearing this, I'm trapped in the lower chamber. The door won't open. I repeat, the door won't open." It cut out mid-sentence. I froze. That's my voice. Same tone, same rhythm, same static crackle behind it. But I was standing right there, holding the radio. The logbook's warning hit me all at once. "The second call will sound like your own." I turned off the radio, but the signal kept going, broadcasting from inside the sealed room. That room's been locked since before I was born. A heavy iron hatch with the Royal Navy seal, dated 1892. The rules said, "Inspect monthly, never open. The lock isn't for you." Outside, lightning hit the sea. For half a second, the light illuminated the lower platform, and something stood there, perfectly still. Same build, same posture as me, but facing away. The next morning, the weather cleared. The broadcast stopped. But when I checked the sealed room, the hatch's frost pattern had changed. Spiral markings leading from the lock outward, as if something inside had breathed on the metal. I wrote in the logbook for the first time in years. If the voice calls again, I might have to answer. It sounds like it knows something I don't.
Reverent storytelling with emotions. I lasted 4 nights before breaking protocol. Every hour, I'd hear faint thuds from below deck, like someone tapping in rhythm with the beacon light. 3 knocks, pause, 3 more. Always timed with the flash from the lamp above. The storm had passed. The sea was calm again, but the air inside the tower felt charged, like static before lightning. That's when I noticed the frost. It had climbed higher up the sealed hatch, thin white veins spidering across the metal, spelling something like letters that kept shifting whenever I blinked. The logbook's ink had bled through the last pages. The final entry from the 1890s read, "When the frost writes back, the keeper is no longer alone." I couldn't stop staring at the lock. The metal was warm now, and I realized it wasn't frost forming from the cold. It was condensation from something breathing on the other side. I grabbed the key. It's an old naval brass model, heavy, engraved with a crown. It had been hanging by the logbook since I arrived, the one I was never supposed to use. The moment I turned it, the entire tower seemed to inhale. The light flickered. Every radio on the shelf hissed at once. Inside was not a room. It was a shaft, a downward staircase carved into stone, lit faintly blue. Not Victorian construction. Older. Way older. And at the base, through the shifting air, I could see what looked like glass tanks or coffins filled with something moving in liquid that reflected the light wrong. I don't remember descending, only that when I looked down, my shadow was still at the top of the stairs, and it was looking back. I don't remember descending the stairs, just the temperature drop, not cold, but absence of warmth, like stepping into the air left behind after something enormous leaves a room. The light came from cracks in the rock itself, a dull, shifting blue that pulsed like it was alive. Every few steps I'd hear a deep groan through the stone, followed by the faint echo of water rushing somewhere far below. At the bottom, the passage opened into a chamber. There were tanks, glass cylinders as tall as I was. Most were shattered, lined with salt crystals and barnacle-like growths. But one was intact, and inside, something moved. It wasn't humanoid. It wasn't even symmetrical. It drifted slowly like cloth underwater, tethered by cables that had long rusted through. When the light touched it, it reacted, not moving toward me, but contracting, as though my gaze hurt it. Then a voice, not from the chamber, but from the intercom upstairs, a system that shouldn't even reach this deep. "Keeper, step back. You've gone too far." The voice was my own. The creature began to rise. The water boiled. The blue light dimmed. Through the distortion, I saw shapes, other faces pressed against the glass from inside, whispering words that rippled the liquid. The sound built until it matched the pulse of the lighthouse beacon above. Then, total darkness. When I came to, I was back in the control room. The key was gone. The hatch below sealed again, welded shut, and every system log had been reset to 1892. Outside, the tide had come in early. The fog was thick enough to hide the horizon. And through the static on the radio, a single transmission kept looping. A man's voice whispering coordinates, my coordinates, and ending with one phrase. "Light the way, Keeper. They're coming in with the tide."
Reverent storytelling with emotions. The sea's been restless for 3 nights straight, waves breaking against the rocks like something beneath is trying to surface. Every hour, the lighthouse's foundations tremble, and each time the beam flickers twice, like it's acknowledging something out there. The maintenance logs say nothing,
but I found an old journal wedged behind the control cabinet. Leather cover, stiff with salt. Its last entry was dated June 3rd, 1892, the day the original keeper vanished. They rise with the third high tide. Keep the light steady, never falter. The sea forgets those who look too long. The handwriting trails off there, but on the next page, pressed deep into the paper, were 7 indentations. Not words, finger marks. That night, the fog rolled in heavier than ever. The beacon's glow barely reached 50 feet before dissolving into gray. And then I saw them. Figures standing on the surface of the water, still as stones. 7 of them, the same number from the journal. Each time the light swept over them, they shifted closer, not walking, not swimming, just appearing, always a little nearer, always at the edge of the beam. The radio crackled alive again. "Keeper, maintain illumination. Do not avert your gaze." This time, it wasn't my voice. It was hers, the voice from the original log recordings, a woman who's been dead for over a century. The beacon began to pulse faster. My hands moved on their own, adjusting the gears, increasing power. The lens turned white-hot, cutting through the fog in rhythmic bursts. With each flash, one figure dissolved, until only one remained. It stood directly beneath the lighthouse balcony, looking up through the fog, its reflection stretching into the sea like a shadow made of light. And then the beam died. Silence. Just the tide slamming against the rock and that single shape below. When I blinked, it was gone. But on the railing where I'd been standing were 7 wet handprints, perfectly spaced. Morning never came. Or maybe it did. The sky just refused to change. The fog hasn't lifted in 30 hours. The radio's been silent, except for one repeating pulse every minute. 7 tones, low and deep, echoing through the static. Same number, always 7. I went down to the sealed room again. The Victorian padlock was gone, snapped clean, like something forced its way out. Inside, the walls were dripping, and the mirror, the one I'd covered, was uncovered again. Condensation spelled a message across the glass, letters trembling in the vibration of the foghorn outside. "Keep the light on." I looked up at the Fresnel lens. The bulb had burnt out hours ago. Yet through the glass I could see it still turning, slowly, deliberately, casting no light, only reflection. For a moment I caught my own face in that reflection, but there was someone standing behind me, close, breathing slow like the tide itself. I didn't turn around. I just whispered the line every keeper writes in the last page of the logbook. The light never goes out. And then I turned off the recorder.